Thank you all for letting me be here. My name's Ken Lininger. I'm a parent of a child who's had surgery, and I'm going to talk a little bit about cognition and what we've experienced as a family. So, Dr. Zuponce was our first treating neurologist by chance, and I will tell you of all the stories I've run across, all the families I've been involved in, it rarely happens the way it happened for us. So my wife sees the child doing some funny things. This went on for a few weeks. Finally, she takes her to the pediatrician. There's an event right there in the office. He immediately says, go to the hospital. We go to the ER. She takes her to the ER, and 4 or 5 hours later, she gets an ambulatory EEG. After 10 minutes of being hooked up, she's immediately admitted, and things went from there. And the person who was treating her right away was Dr. Mary Zuponce. It wasn't another neurologist or someone who was treating lots of kids and seeing people. A lot of times these families like ours bring a baby to the pediatrician and said, well, she's doing these funny things or he's doing these funny things, but they don't do it right there for the neurologist, so here you go. It takes a long time to get to the point of transition. So she had infantile spasms is what ended up happening, or epileptic spasms as we call it now. And also she was having complex partial seizures, and we didn't see that right away. And interestingly enough, this is the day, the morning before surgery, and she was just as happy as could be on that particular morning, and she's never really been that way, or she hadn't been up to that point. And so our first EEG went from 10 minutes in the ER to 4 hours inpatient to 36 hours. And in that time, I think we got a much better overall classification for what was happening. She had discontinuous EEG, which sounds bad, flatline, but it's not that uncommon in little kids. And this is about 12 weeks when that started. This is 13 months here. And so a lot of you know what that is like, recovering from that. That's her first surgery. It took 2 because she was very unhealthy, and they had a lot of medical challenges on the table during the first surgery, so it was incomplete. The second surgery at 18 months, it was full left TPO, or POT, and the first surgery, we were home within 40 hours of arriving at the hospital. It was that fast. She immediately picked up a bottle and drank it after the surgery and wasn't having seizures, and it was amazing. The second time around, she started to have seizures again. That's why we went back. Let's just say it was a really different story. It was hard. It took a long time. And we thought we made a mistake for a lot of years. And sometimes very emotional, but that's her. She's a twin, actually. That's her twin brother. And she's 8 now. She's here. You'll get a chance to meet her. You would never know that was her history. Never know it. So our roadmap, what did it look like? Well, Mary Zuponce, she was the one who said it first. She also told us a few other things. Mourn the loss of your normal child because she's gone. You're on a different path now. She said, prepare your marriage, prepare your finances because it's going to be hard. And with a 1.5T MRI, the 36-hour EEG, 10 days later, she's on ACTH at this point. We added Sabril at this point. You guys know how this goes. She said, iteratively, I remember standing there with her. We're flipping through the slide images on the MRI, and she's saying, but her seizure activity, it's global with the IS, but she's got this other stuff going on over here. And it looks to me like there's something a little different on this side versus that side. And it was like that. It's a little different here than there. And it wasn't a lot different. And she said, in the first clinical notes, she's probably going to benefit from a TPO or a hemispherectomy later on in her life. And that became our prayer, really. And, at that point, development regressed big time. She went from being very normal. This was 12 weeks when we got this diagnosis. She went from doing things she should be doing, rolling over, looking at you, laughing, holding your finger, to basically nothing. I mean, at 1 year, she was tested right before surgery, and she was 0 to 3 months development, all across the board. In some cases, it wasn't even really, you can't even assess it. I mean, she's just laying there. So we were basically told or advised that, hey, stopping the seizures was her best chance at, development and quality of life. It wasn't, there wasn't much there to start with, honestly. So we were told, hey, the visual field cut would be profound. It's going to be permanent. Ironically, a lot of doctors have told us, oh, no, it'll come back or it'll change. It is permanent, from what I can tell. She would but given her age at surgery, she'd compensate really well. This is what we were told. And the other thing that we were told, and we asked, well, what about the other side? This idea of neuroplasticity. I'm a degreed engineer, so is my wife, so we immediately, the college cramming, we're trying to figure out what is this all about that we're about to do. Well, what about the other side? Is it going to be healthy enough to take over? How do we know she's going to do all these things? We went from the typical parent, is she going to go to college? Is she going to go to school? Is she going to learn? To, is she even going to know who we are? Is she going to experience love? Is she going to smile? We just didn't know. So, things that are great, she's 6 years seizure-free now, 5 years off meds. At the end of kinder, last year, I let kindergarten go, and then I pushed the testing. Her IQ measured at 80. So that's borderline, for those of you who don't know. That's borderline for services, no services. And so she got services based on the cortical vision impairment, or the field cut, if you will. And basically, I would say, as a ginormous triumph, she's a very happy, healthy kid. She's very close to age-appropriate behavior in all areas. She takes care of herself, she dresses herself, she can bathe herself, she can do all things that her brothers can do. And I would say that what we're challenged with today is on the education side more than anything. So I believe, as someone I've been a stay-at-home dad for a long time, and I've been the one that's driven all of her care and taking care of her. So mom does a lot too, but I'm the one that's been pushing it. And so I'm the one that's standing here, not her. There's a relationship to memory there, and I can see it, and I didn't know that Mary was talking right after me, so I'm very anxious to see what she says. The visual field cut is also a big problem, without a doubt. If she were to run into this room, she would run around, she'd climb on the tables, and you would never know that she can't see, what she can't see. That's what I see as a parent. So memory, again, from what I feel, she has a lot of trouble with just overall capacity of memory. If you think about reading comprehension, right? A lot of things have to happen there for her to comprehend what she's reading. We're trying to teach her, we're breaking down everything into the smallest little pieces, spalling sounds, right? Sight words, then sentences, and then putting it all together in understanding a paragraph of 2 sentences, right? It's really hard for her. Our neurosurgeon, Dr. Tandon, told me one time, she's gonna be like a computer, right? If there's a bad stick of memory, for those of you who know anything about computers, the computer doesn't work. You get the blue screen, you get, total failure. You take out that one piece of memory, and the computer works. Right? It'll turn on, it'll do all the things you want it to do, but it's not going to have the same amount of memory. So you may not be able to do all the things at the same time that you used to do. So that's what he kind of described her situation. And what I would say as a final challenge is this thing we call Meta-Cognition now, right? And so as someone who did a lot of research to do this today for you, I see now that there's this new field that we're kind of looking at, and she's not aware. She has no idea what she can't see. She has no idea of the challenges that she's been through. She doesn't know where her scar is, even though we've tried to show her a bunch of times. We show her pictures, there's a big video, if you Google her name, we have a nice video of her story. I've done the field testing, after a while you see what the doctors do. I can do that too, it's not hard, and she does not see to that side, and she can't she can't understand that her brothers can see that, and she says, well, I can see it too, Dad, I just look over there and there it is, that's what she says. So in terms of reading and writing, again, I think these things pose a huge challenge, and so how do we help them? we're trying to figure it out. I understand there is information out there for us, but I would also say too, as a parent, that I'm navigating the IEP process, setting the appropriate goals, and then the surveillance of it. She has aides in class, right, and they're not doing what I think that they should be doing. She's supposed to get a certain amount of help, and she's not getting it. And then furthermore, I would say that, what kind of help is she getting? If she's just getting someone who has a high school degree to sit there and, talk to her, I'm not sure that that's really the appropriate help, honestly. And I was sharing this at our table earlier. There's no proof, but we think that she always was right. She always sucked her right thumb, and then immediately after the first surgery, that went away, and the left thumb came in. And who knows? But I will say that the fine motor skill, she's left-handed now. She writes with her left hand. She can write in cursive. She can write in print. But it's very hard to understand it, right? She has a lot of challenges with the fine motor. It tends to be big, blocky print. And again, she is 7 or 8, so that's not entirely abnormal. Memory, the central storage, it seems to be very selective in nature, and I don't know why this is. If you tell her we're going to Disneyland, and we don't go there very often, but if you tell her we're going, next summer, she'll want to know how many days, how many sleeps. She'll want to know exactly when we're going to go, and she'll count it down. She'll wake up the next day and say, Dad, it's 49 days until we're going, and she'll remember every day, and she'll pack bags. I mean, she'll be totally into it. But if you tell her to, what's 3 plus 3, we've drilled it. We've drilled it for years, and she finally gets it now. But if you ask her what 3 plus 4 is, it's a long blank stare. And then you'll see her get her fingers out. She'll count it out. Oh, it's 7, Dad. I got the answer, right? But it shouldn't be that way, right? There should be more. There's something to me as the parent and the caregiver where you just see that there's a memory issue there. And I don't know what that really is all about, but again, the complex tasks, right? The only thing that I would add to this is, look, some people are going to say, look, this is kind of normal. She is 7 or going on 8. And to me, though, we've been through other 7 and 8-year-olds, and I teach a lot of other kids a lot of stuff on a regular basis. And these are the kinds of things that you don't see with other kids, at least in my experience. You don't see this repeated teaching of the same thing over and over, and she doesn't get it still, or he doesn't get it still. I don't see that, but we see that with her. Now, I will say this, I will add this to this slide, is that the prevailing knowledge, right, is IQ is kind of set. And I think with this child, I would disagree. I mean, I think her IQ is higher than 80, actually. I really do. And what I see is an expansion of her memory. From 2 or 3 years ago, her brain is changing, it's growing. I'm not sure exactly what's happening, but she's getting better at a lot of things. And the Meta-Cognition, this is something that concerns me as a parent, as kids can be, kids can be really mean to each other. I mean, I've got 4 of them, I know. So, she doesn't know what she doesn't know. I mean, she doesn't understand what's going on with her. She also is diagnosed with autism, and one of the things I think that really changed her path was she went into 40-hour-a-week facility ABA at age 2 to age 3, and it really, I think, helped her behavior get on track and get focused, and it was a dramatic change in her life, that particular experience as well. But kids can be really mean, and sometimes ball sports, anything that's fast moving, and she can't ride a bike still. Lots of things like that are affecting her, and I think she's getting to a point in her life now where she's understanding that effect, right? People are saying things to her and behaving, in a way that's, I think she's going to get it, that she's different. She's not the same, and this can have effects, right? I mean, the psychologists and psychiatrists in the room can talk more about that, but we regularly share her story with her. We kind of are showing her what's different about her. We share her story with a lot of families. We meet a lot of other families that might be going through this too. So The other thing that we do is we're always looking, how can we help her better? And especially with reading and the writing, right? We show her things and she just won't, yeah, it looks better. Holding the book that way looks better. And then you look away and she's put it back, the way she wanted it. And so it's very hard for us to understand what's helping her and what isn't helping her, other than immediate results-based scenarios, like a spelling test, for example. So what I would like to know is, I've looked at a lot of research on the memory side. I mean, what about the memory of these kids? I mean, how does it change? I think we know a little bit about how normal kids might progress, right? We're doing a lot of stuff with the MEG technology with the elderly population and how the memory declines and how the functional networks decline, but how does it work with younger kids? What are we to expect as parents? If we're going to go into the IEP meeting, I can't tell you how strong it is to have a diagnosis or a doctor's note or something where I can show them and say, this is why we need to help her. This is why I'm requesting this to help her, not just that. Not just an aid, but how about someone that's going to sit there and we're going to repeat the same things over and over in a more direct, deliberate manner, not just play with her and let her do what she's going to do, because she will always take the path of least resistance, right? She's not going to go after it. And what does the research say about the different teaching techniques for these kids with the, the hemianopia? I mean, what can we do to help them better? And you can't ever go back and redo it, so it's very hard to understand, I think, how this might work and what it might look like for these kids. I know, for example, she's one of 1,200 kids in her elementary school, and she's the only one who's ever had epilepsy surgery. She's not the only one who has epilepsy. She's the only one that has had epilepsy surgery, and for all the teachers and students there, they've never met another child like her. So it's a very complex task to get these teachers and these caregivers to understand, this is what we need to do to help this child. And by the way, this can help other kids too. I mean, it's not just her. So with that, I will pass it along.